Okay, welcome everyone. Council is convened for, we've had a series of work sessions today, and this one is on the Development and Engineering Advisory Board. So if you'd like to please come up, whoever is presenting. We have your report. Look forward to hearing what you have to say.
There we go. Hi. Thanks for having us today. My name is Sherry Jones. I am the, past chair of DEAB. I represent the Southwest Washington Contractors Association position on the DEAB advisory board. So as 2024, I was the chair of the group, and I won't spend a lot of time on our accomplishments because we want to look forward. But we did have a lot of presence with the housing options for residential. We're part of that group right now for the multifamily and commercial projects, all that stuff. We did some, one of the highlights that we had this year is that we did one of the, what are we calling it? The third party review. Yeah. Where when a applicant didn't agree with staff, they had the ability to bring that forward. So we did have one of those, a very successful one of those. And we look forward to hopefully refining that process and seeing what that looks like to continue helping resolve some of those issues to shorten those timelines for applicants. There was a lot of review of just policy or code changes based on Washington state law and some proposed changes that have been presented to you as part of the biannual amendments, but we do those annually. One thing I want to mention, because it was brought to us from council last year, is that they wanted us to review condo as an option, having condos built in Clark County. And ultimately, that was a much bigger conversation than what could happen in DEAB. So the biggest hurdle there with the condo development would be the Washington codes around the condo liability. And so it's really a policy issue at the state level that really to have any changes done, we would have to rally a lot of entities, all of the entities down here, along with the building association, the contractors association, and we would really have to put a lot of work behind that because there's infinitely more data at the state level on the other side of the coin for why we wouldn't change it than there is on the development side. And so
I understand there's legislation that's progressing at the state level. I haven't read the detail of that, so it may be something relevant for the next year.
yes, absolutely. And I know that there's been some work for, I want to say no more than two stories and going wide with condos rather than like skyscraper type condos. So there's been a lot of conversation around those topics. And so hopefully we can see some of those changes happen that we can implement locally. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Wilson. He's the chair for DEAB this year, and he'll talk about what we're looking forward to for 2025.
Hi, my name is Ryan Wilson. I'm principal at Wilson Architects here in Vancouver. And yes, I am the current chair of DEAB and was hoping to talk a little bit about what my primary focus is on this year and what DEAB is going to be looking for in the upcoming year. To start off with, it seems like the biggest thing that people always ask of DEAB is how can we make permitting faster? And so the county is currently going through a series of audits in their land use, development engineering, and building permitting processes. And those audits, at the moment, only the land use one is completed, but it's likely that there will be some process changes as a result of those audits. And DEAB is right in the middle of those discussions and reviewing those proposed changes and discussing what kind of an impact that will have on applicants going forward. Another item that has come up recently was the Ross Hoover, the new chair of the Parks Department, came by and spoke with us. there's been a long discussion going back even well before my time even on how private developers who frequently put in park spaces in like subdivision developments, how that those can be help to meet some of the county's park goals and potentially result in some savings in PIF fees, the park impact fees. So that's an ongoing discussion. I don't know that we have any conclusions on that at the moment, but that's something we'll continue to talk about. We're providing feedback as the county is preparing to move past the LMS process. LMS is the current software that they use for online permitting tools. And so we are starting to provide feedback on what we're looking for as we move past the LMS system. And then we continue to work with the road mod committee, trying to find ways to reduce, hopefully, the number of road mods on projects and to process them in a more efficient manner. We've also looked at some pilot projects using an expedited review process. That's where land use and engineering are reviewed concurrently. That isn't quite ready to roll out yet either, but we have done some beta projects on that. And potentially all-in-one building permits as well. In addition to that, one of the other things that DEAB frequently does is we review code amendments as they come up. Recently, this has included the stormwater and habitat codes. A lot of those are dictated by the state, and so the county code amendments are just bringing the county code in line with state requirements. But there are others. The Technical Housing Code Forum, which is part of the HOSAP project. We have several members of DEAB that sit on that. DEAB is one of the groups that is included in the Technical Housing Code Forum. And I was on the single housing, and I am currently on the multi-housing version of that as well. Biannual code amendments, those typically come before DEAB before they're brought to you so we can provide input. A lot of times we're looking for unintended consequences, making sure that the language is consistent. See what we can provide feedback on what types of impacts that those code changes will have on the development community. And also whether or not we feel it's in compliance with comp plan goals. And then the third thing that's part of my agenda for the year is looking forward and preparing for future changes in the development landscape that are coming up. This includes legislative bills. We track several legislative bills as they come through, especially ones that apply to development in Clark County. Codes, in particular the energy codes, and how those are going to impact the future of development. And we do have several people who keep a pulse on things like financing, construction costs, labor, and things like that. So a lot of those are part of the DEAB discussions. So that wraps up the main part of my presentation. I'd like to kind of conclude with just a general invitation. Several counselors in the past have attended board meetings. Our board meetings are public, so anybody can attend. I know the counselors that have some requirements about how many can attend and things like that, but past counselors have attended and even provided public comment, and you are always welcome to do that. We're happy to have you. The DEAB, in our view, really exists for your benefit. We like to consider ourselves consultants and advisors for the council. So if you have technical questions, questions about how something will impact the development community, or just want to run something by us, we're always helpful. We're happy to help. So with that, I would like to open this up to just kind of an open discussion. Anything that you guys have in mind about development engineering or the development community or what we can do for you.
Great. Thank you very much. And I just want to thank you and all of the members of DEAB. This is a volunteer operation, and we appreciate your service. I think it's very good to keep those lines of communication open between permitting and the county and the development community. So thank you all for that. So are there any questions or comments?
Chair, I just have a comment.
Yes, please.
I just want to thank this committee for recording your meetings because there has been quorum issues in the past or a conflict with the board or committee that I'm on. So it's nice to be able to watch them back because not all boards and committees do that. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to, as much as I'd love to take credit for that, that's staff who does that and puts it on the web page. But yeah, I appreciate it as well, because from time to time, even some of our DEAB members aren't able to attend, and to be able to listen to it afterwards and see what was discussed is really helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments or questions? Counselor Young, I always look to you.
Just curious, you mentioned ADU definition and requirements. Can you give just a little background on what the thought process is behind that?
So I know there's been a lot of discussion around ADUs as far as where the county stands, and ADUs are allowed, but very limited are they allowed. And currently a detached is not allowed in a rural area. And that falls a lot back to how the Growth Management Act is written. We actually just discussed yesterday a conversation with Ryan as well as one with Eric, and it's complex, but it can happen, and other growth management counties do allow it. And so I think that's something that we'll look into a little bit further of what are they doing in other jurisdictions and how could that translate into Clark County.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thanks for this. I'm new to a lot of these processes, so I'm glad you exist and that you're working hard on the issues for us. I was just wondering if there's ways that we can improve the communication between your body and ours. And I just wondered what the existing interaction is. Is it one of us serves on your committee, and do you give periodic reports to us? How does it work currently? We just had a similar meeting with the Public Health Advisory Committee, and we're trying to work on ways to increase the amount of dialogue and communication. So in that same light, just curious how we can improve it.
I think that historically DEAB has had more communication with council than we've had in the recent year or two. So we would like to see that improve. From a perspective of oftentimes you're presented with data that you have to filter through very quickly. And if a DEAB member is able to be present in some of those contexts, we can quickly answer questions to help you get through that to where it doesn't have to cycle back through and come back to another meeting. And that used to be done more frequently, where we would have just a brief 5 minutes to cover something before you go into discussion. And that hasn't been happening recently. So that's something we'd like to see change. I know that Glenn has attended, Counselor Young, I should say, has attended some of our meetings and provided some input. But I wouldn't say that there is a specific member of council that would attend. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no dedicated liaison, if that was where that was going. But yeah, certainly attending DEAB meetings is always welcome. And, if there are specific questions, those could be done formally through staff. April attends almost all of our meetings. And so I'm sure she would be more than happy to pass on if there were any specific questions or topics or subjects you wanted us to look into. Beyond that, I'm not sure what sort of informal. I would assume you could just email us or call us if you wanted. So
Eric seems to have a
yeah.
Thank you.
There's another one here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been on the board for quite a few years now, and in the past, we participated in a lot of the public hearings on development type projects. We were called by the board to be part of the we're not part of the public. We are your advisor. So we typically give recommendations to you. We try to state the facts. We try to give you an opinion from the board. And the board's not just us. It's made up of us and county staff. So you get two sides to the story. So things like a comprehensive plan, probably even a better one was the middle housing code that you guys looked at. So we would be part of the hearing. We'd be called up to do a presentation to you guys as your advisor. So I think that could be improved, and we could do that again. That hasn't happened, I think, since COVID, but that's something where we had a lot more impact and we could be of a lot more assistance to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much.
Other questions? I have a question. We have a committee that's been, well, a couple of committees that have been working very hard on the climate change element of the comp plan update. And I wonder if that's a topic that you all have looked at. I mean, they're going to be presenting to us well over 100 recommendations, and we haven't had a full look at all of that. But have you been following that? And yeah, I think that could be an arena where your input would be helpful.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have anybody on that. Is it a climate action committee? Is that it's something like that? Yeah, I remember doing I sat on an early one once where they were kind of just brainstorming how they would go about it, but we don't currently have a DEAB member who's sitting on that. But I agree, that's something that would.
Unfortunately, they had their last meeting this week,
yeah.
but you can take a good look at their recommendations. It'll go before the Planning Commission and then come back to us. So I think in the next couple of months, we'll be sorting through all of that. And ultimately, it'll be incorporated into the comprehensive plan due at the end of the year.
I think we would be very happy to review it from a development perspective, if you wanted us to do that.
I would say that's a great idea, because I think oftentimes when you're looking at climate change, you have a net goal that you want to accomplish, and there's multiple paths to getting there. So I would appreciate if you could look at that and see if there might be some efficiency ways that we could change or adapt things or accomplish things that we may not be looking at currently.
Right. And I think, I know Councillor Belcott has been the primary contact participating in this, but they can be kind of broad objectives. And, you know, as we go into implementation over the next several years, a lot of the detail can be identified. But yeah, Councillor Belcott, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I know there was a ton of recommendations that the consultants are going through right now in finalizing everything based on the last meeting. And I know that Noelle Laverne was on the climate committee, and that she talks to Eric quite frequently. So I'm assuming that that information will make its way to DEAB.
Yeah, Noelle's a frequent public participant in our DEAB meetings, so yeah.
Great. And these were developed on a consensus basis, had broad spectrum of stakeholders. And I just attended their last meeting, and they really went word by word in great detail to come in alignment and agreement with people who hold probably some very polarized positions. But I think that would be a great addition to your workload.
I do believe that when they were forming that committee, Ryan and I, as well as a couple other DEAB members, met with the consultants before they formed the committee. So we weighed in at that point. And then I believe the intent was that it does come back through DEAB once it's all complete. And I know they just met, was it last week?
Yes, or the last meeting was this week. Actually.
Well, it was this week, yeah. So I do believe that the intent was that comes back through for
Right.
final input.
And there'll be opportunities for the public to weigh in both at the Planning Commission and the council. So great. Any other comments? All right. I'm just thinking if I had anything else here. So yeah, so we'll keep our eye on the condo legislation and see what can be worked out there. Okay, so I guess, yeah, we'll find ways to interact as often as I know what I wanted to say. I feel like what has been reported to us is that our permit timeline is much improved, and I think April takes great pride in working with you all and making that happen. So if there's additional speed needed, you can work that out with April and hope that goes well. Great.
Yeah,
Yes,
to a
go
certain
ahead.
extent, you're never going to make everybody. I mean, can always be faster, but yeah, it has much
There's been
better.
progress.
Yeah, it's been significant progress. Yeah.
Great. Go ahead, Counselor.
Just to circle back to Counselor Little's comment, I don't know if we have it here, but I would love to have a conversation on how we can facilitate more involvement from all of our committees, not just DEAB, but have some process whereby which they can just, if there's an issue that comes up with DEAB or with our Ag Commission or any of our boards that we have created, that they could ask if they desire to have a short work session with the council or something prior to a public hearing. I think that would be an excellent addition.
Chris Cook, Chief Deputy Prosecutor. Those commissions and boards and all those folks, their meetings are public and they have public comment periods. And the Planning Commission used to have DEAB folks come up and testify regularly during public comment. I would suggest that if the DEAB has concerns about something that's on the Planning Commission or any other board and commission's agenda, that they involve themselves in the Planning Commission's meeting, as the rest of the public has the same right to do.
Is there a legal reason why we couldn't have them participate in that way?
So that's a good question. You can tell that the gears are turning here. I don't know. What if Friends of Clark County wanted the same sort of
That's different
access
than a board or commission that's sanctioned by the council. Different. So I feel like this is a policy level decision that we should have a conversation about. I don't have a problem with any one of our boards and commissions. What I don't like is we ask all of this time from them. They get one letter that's sent to us in an email, or they get 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like our boards and commissions deserve a larger voice.
So there's not currently a process where where you all provide us an annual report or time. This is it.
And I'll add, the only time that we have been asked since my time on DEAB has been when it's come directly from council. I don't know that there's been a staff hasn't offered or asked us to be at anything, but I think there's only been one request directly from council, I believe.
And I also think on your agendas, though, don't they go over all the council agenda items coming up and planning commission to provide that information and also get information if needed to bring back?
I think one struggle we have is honestly a logistical challenge with the scheduling of DEAB versus Planning Commission. Planning Commission usually meets right after we meet, and oftentimes we're just seeing something for the first time right before it's going to Planning Commission.
I'd recommend talk to staff to see if you can change the meeting of DEAB to the week before or something.
Yeah, so I think that a little bit of that is just a scheduling challenge.
Yeah, a lot of times we do comment to Planning Commission. A good example is biannual code changes. So it usually comes through us. We provide recommendations. We provide recommendations to the Planning Commission, and we provide recommendations to the board. And in the past, again, things have changed over the years. There's been changes in the boards, the members, staff. But in the past, what would happen is if Planning Commission did have a question, they would ask us. So it wasn't just we would just show up. We would provide our comments, and they would go over them, and staff presented them. Occasionally we would present them, and a lot of times it was by invitation. So planning commission board members would say, we would like to hear DEAB's position, and we were invited to provide them our analysis as a peer board to them.
So you're not a peer board. I'm
Not a peer.
sorry, but under
but
the
we-
law, you just aren't.
Well-
Though you are an informed and expert board whose input is valued. But you don't have a GMA role. So
No.
that's what I'm saying.
So purely,
But so I've been working with the Planning Commission for quite a while. And there's never been, well, I've been here, an official, this is DEAB's time. Now, if you all were present and if you all had submitted stuff, I know you were often asked to come up, but you can also participate as everyone else can. And if there are 4 of you there, that's 12 minutes, not 3. So
If I may add, I don't know that we are wanting a dedicated time at Planning Commission because that's just more of our time. I think it's more just how do we ensure that we have the opportunity more often to connect between the two committees if there was an opportunity outside of public comment. But I don't think any of us want to spend the time having to go to every Planning Commission to fill that spot.
I would just say that if ever you felt a need to have a work session or there was a topic, you can always send in that request and we would absolutely consider it. So I don't think there's necessarily barriers.
I agree. Thank you for that. We've only requested, I think, once recently, and it didn't come through. I don't remember why. I think we resolved it with staff, but that's the only time I can think of recently.
and I do not disagree with Ms. Cook. We don't have a mandated role. It's purely as a courtesy. So we were asked to provide information, and we did it as a request because they trusted our opinion. So I agree with everything you just said.
okay, thanks. And I have to say, I think that the current Planning Commission is very open to input from you. I can't see that group saying, we don't want to listen to them.
I think that would be good. If there's something that's important to get in front of us, ask us, and we'd be happy to accommodate it, a short work session or whatnot to go over that.
Okay, I guess on that positive note, thank you again for your time, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.